on your laptop, or is that the dinosaur? Press a key.
So we're back with another session. I think we're halfway now.
Are we halfway through?
Yeah.
We must be, right? It's a bit, well, I am taking in so much good information. I'm learning a lot during this.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's been some very amazing stuff, and I can imagine there's still a lot of stuff to come.
Yeah, we have another great session coming up about an open source chat UI for generative AI apps. Nietzsche is going to join us. So welcome, Nietzsche.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Nietzsche, how's
Oh,
things?
yay! Hi! I wasn't sure I was in the right place, so I'm so excited to be here. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes.
It's my first time at the Global AI conference, so I'm super excited to be here. I wanted to share my screen. Is this the right time for me to do that?
Yes, please do that.
Please do.
And
Let's
before
do
you
it.
start, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Oh my God, that's the worst part, isn't it? All right. Hi, my name is Nitya Narasimhan. I'm actually a senior cloud advocate on the AI advocacy team with a bunch of these lovely folks over here. I've been in this industry for over 2 decades, and this is, I think, one of the most exciting times for AI. One of my folks here is going to be HuggingFace Chat, but I'm actually very involved in the community around responsible AI. We just launched the Global AI chapter in New York last night. Super excited about that.
Great posts on that. It looked well attended. Really great work.
It was amazing. We actually ran the workshop. So if you're in New York, do come join us and come talk at our meetup.
Okay. Good. So are you ready?
Awesome. I'm ready. Are you able to see my screen?
We are just checking.
Yes, we see
absolutely
it.
can.
Awesome.
Take it away.
All right, let's take this away. I'm going to kind of like jump into this right away because this is something that I built for a much longer talk. But my goal today is really to excite you and try to make you kind of go and explore this on your own. So my talk today is going to be on deconstructing HuggingFace Chat. What's that about? Let's dive in. So you're probably all familiar with this UI, right? We all have used ChatGPT at some point or another. When you look at this UI, you're going to see a few nice elements. On the left, there's a conversational history. Every chat prompt that you did, you can kind of go back and look at the history of your conversations. You can go add more stuff, etc. Right? Second is you have this chat UI field at the bottom where you kind of put in your prompts. You have the ability to switch models, right? You might pick like GPT 3.5 versus 4. You might also be able to try out different models. You can switch the themes between dark and light mode. And as you see richer and richer UIs, you might have more features. This looks super cool. And this is something we probably all want. But it turns out that building it from scratch can be quite challenging. Now, this is an example of yet another chat UI that works with some of these large language models to build a generative AI application that supports a conversational experience. This one is the Azure OpenAI Playground. You'll see that it looks different. You've got different features in there, but kind of the similar elements, right? Now, this is again built in production, and you probably couldn't do this on your own. Why? Because chances are that if you are in this space, you might be a data scientist or an AI person who knows Python and can work with Jupyter notebooks and really run rings around those models. Or you are an application developer who knows the front end part, but may not know necessarily how to work with the backend models. So to build something like this, you need to have knowledge of front end frameworks. You need to know how to do backend integrations. You need to know how to configure models, and you need to be able to extend this to other ideas. So what are we supposed to do? Wouldn't it be great if you had an open source project, a starter project that you can start from and kind of customize? Or at the very least, you can actually look through it because it's open source and figure out how to do some of these things that are challenging, and then try to figure it out and build your own. So HuggingFace Chat, you can actually go check this out, and we'll try to flip back and forth so we can kind of do some demos. HuggingFace Chat is a chat application from HuggingFace that is deployed in production. So let me actually switch over here really quickly. Ooh, I can't see my screen now because of this thing that's over here. How do I do that? Give me a sec. All right. This is what the HuggingFace Chat experience looks like. So you can go in, if you've actually already gone to that thing, you can go in and say, hey, what is the global AI community, right? And what it's doing here that you'll see is it's actually using the predefined default model, which you'll see right here is Llama 2. And it's kind of like helping you get that chat experience off the bat. We're going to stop generating this now. And this is the default experience in production, but it's also community supported because this comes backed up with an open source repo. And this repo is something you can go explore and you can contribute to. And you can see there's a lot of active work going on in it right now. Last but not least, it's containerization friendly. And this is what we're going to focus on today. That makes it easy for you to deploy this to different environments. And because this is Hugging Face, it comes with a lot of seamless model integrations out of the box. So our learning objectives today are, we want to understand the Hugging Face platform and community. We want to help you set up your local development environment so you can build and preview this application on your own device. And then we're going to explore the code base and try to understand or think about how we can extend this with other ideas, Azure integrations. Let's dive in. What is Hugging Face? So when you talk to people about Hugging Face, they're immediately going to say, oh, Hugging Face, yes, it's a place which has models. It actually ends up being a lot more. So Hugging Face is both a platform and a community, and this is important. First and foremost, this is what it's known for. It's a place where you can find models and data sets. It's a hub. So you'll see a lot of research organizations on there publishing open source models, publishing open source data sets that you can then use to train your models. So it's a really, really rich area for AI, ML researchers and developers. But you can also then access this model hub from another place. So if you go onto the new Azure AI Studio, so ai.azure.com, you might find that it has an Explore option where you can go in and check out the Hugging Face. Literally, there's a Hugging Face filter. Get access to all the models that are on Hugging Face, pull them in and deploy them directly to Azure with just a couple of clicks. So that's what Hugging Face is really, really well known for. But there's more. It's also a place that has a feature called Spaces, where if you use that model, you can deploy it. It kind of is like Codespaces, but not exactly. It's a containerized environment that they run in a cloud, but they just seamlessly allow you to pick up a model, deploy it, and then run your apps against it. And I'll show you this because it is very, very cool. Let me see if I can kind of show you one of the ones that are going on right now. This was just announced yesterday. You should absolutely follow Julian Bilkey. He released this yesterday. This is AITube. It's hosted on Spaces. It is a YouTube filled with videos that have been 100% created by AI. And the whole app is right there that you can go check out and figure out how you can work with it, right? So that's what Spaces is. It kind of gives you a seamless way to go from the model, deploy, try it out. That means that if you were to do something with one of these models, you can throw it out there for the community to play with. Hugging Face also has users and organizations. I'm never going to get through everything in this talk today. So if you want to, please follow me on huggingface.co/NithyaN, because I will be putting a sequence of blog posts that'll go through this step by step, and will do more than what I'll complete today. But also just go create a profile on there and start doing things to curate and contribute to the community. What do I mean by that? One of the core things you can do in Hugging Face community is create collections. You can curate collections of models, of data sets, and things like papers. So I hugely recommend, if you're into research papers, go to this particular, it's huggingface.co/papers, I think it is, where they create a collection of curated research papers on a daily basis based on what's trending. It's a great way for you to understand where the industry is going. So that was my really rapid overview of what Hugging Face is. But we want to know what Hugging Face Chat is. So we're going to right now start praying for the demo gods, right? Well, let's talk about what Hugging Face Chat is. Hugging Face Chat is an open source chat UI. That means that, first of all, it has an open source repo. And we kind of looked at that briefly here. Let me see if I can pull it up. And you can go in and clone it. I would hugely recommend you do that anyway, but you can go clone it. And they walk you through steps on how you can set it up in various environments. Today, we're going to try to do it in a couple of different environments. But one of the things that you have to know about this is it's currently at v0.6 and it changes daily. So things will break, and that's okay. But what you want to look at is really, what are the features that are there? And our goal today is to understand how we can keep track of them and use them. Second is the deployed application that we already saw. Third, this is where I want to make the connection back to what we talked about in Hugging Face Spaces. If you want to take this chat UI, this open source repo, and just quickly get a version running that you can play with, you can use Spaces. And they made it easier because there is a Docker template for the chat UI. So you literally just click it, pick the Docker container, You have to pick the kind of environment you want, click a button, and it's deployed. Now, I'm not showing this to you because this particular feature of HuggingFace needs a paid plan, because what you're going to be using is an environment that requires a GPU. But that doesn't stop you. If you want to go try it out, it should be seamless. And I will write a blog post on this later as well. But under the covers, the fourth component of this open source example, or this kind of like solution, is the fact that HuggingFace has a very well-known text generation inference server that it provides for free, or there is both a free tier and a paid tier, I should say. That is the backing server for this chat UI. So in other words, you can take this open source model, this open source project, configure the models you want, set it up with the token for your application. We'll talk about this in a minute. Deploy it and you're done. You didn't have to worry about the server. It talks to this server of theirs, which then uses your prompts, does the inference, and sends the responses back. So you can see that this, the text generation inference server is really kind of optimized for serving large language models. And there's a link in the README, so you can go find out more about that as well. So with that, hopefully you got like a big sense of what the HuggingFace chat UI is, right? There's a code base with the front end. There's a server that they provide for you. There's a configuration that lets you configure this to talk to the server. And then in terms of deployment, if you wanted to, you could deploy it to Spaces. But we could do other things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to like look at how we can deconstruct it to learn it. So if you go through the README, the low-hanging fruit is don't do anything, just try running it locally, right? So that's what we're going to try to do. I'm on a Mac. So if demagogues are happy with me, this thing is still alive. What you can do is you need a MongoDB database and the configuration string, the connection string for it. And you need a HuggingFace key. You can set up a free account and you'll get a HuggingFace key with it. With those two, you put them into the environment configuration file in the right place. I'm not going to show it to you because it actually has my key in there. But once you do that, that's all you need to do. Open up two terminals. In one, you run Docker run, get the MongoDB image, run it. So you have a MongoDB database running locally. In the other terminal, you do npm install to make sure that your node runtime is set up with all the dependencies for that web app, npm run dev, and it's running. Let's see it in action. Here it is. You can see that on the left, this is my Docker desktop on a Mac. And you'll see that I've already run it over here. I was kind of doing some stuff before I came, so there's a lot of stuff over here, but you'll see that I ran Docker run. And when I did that, it actually set up this Docker container, which is running right now. And once that's alive, I can go into this other terminal. And I did an npm install already, and then I did an npm run dev, and it's running here. Now, it is a bit hiccupy. So sometimes what happens is when you try this, it will break and you have to restart it. But that's what v.6 is, right? So let's try something here. What is global AI community? So a couple of things you'll notice, hopefully, is that it'll be super slow over here. Like if I put this in here, it may take a little bit of time to generate it. We'll go back to the slides, come back and check on it. And sometimes you may see errors. And if so, just, kill the server, start it up again. Hey, that was not bad. It was kind of pretty fast. So this is how you can just, with zero effort, you've got this running. Now you've got the code base locally. You've got your MongoDB database. You've got this. Now, the other thing, I want to basically show you that. Let me see if I can kill this. So you'll notice that we're using a MongoDB database, right? So if you actually use the Mongo shell, you can now go in and inspect the database to make sure that the content of your conversations is available. So we'll start by saying, show me all the databases that are in here. And I think I set this up to use HFChat. So let's use that. And I apologize if my screen size are long. I'll put screenshots and write this up later, I swear. We're going to look at what collections are there in this database. And now you'll see that there are multiple collections. And we're going to look at this conversations. I'm just going to be really lazy and say, show me the conversations and find. So the last one, if we're right, should contain the global AI community conversation we just saw. So you've pretty much got an entire environment set up to run this chat and debug it locally. But wait, we can do better. So the problem with this approach is it's locked in now into your local environment. And we are developers, we travel everywhere. The other thing is that we may want to be able to do other things and take advantage of like extensions, fancy editors, maybe kind of have workflows, whatever, right? This is where something like GitHub Codespaces really helps me, right? So first, we're going to kind of like talk about what GitHub Codespaces is. But before we do that, let me quickly just see if my demo is still running, and then we'll come back. So the same thing that you saw is now running in Codespaces in my account. So I'm going to keep this on here for a second because I forgot to put the link in the slides. But what I did is I forked their repo. It's in my account, so it's just Nitya with the same repo. And under there is a branch called Feature Global AI. That's the one in which I've kind of configured it to use Dev Container. So if you're interested in it, go in and you can play with it. And that version of the, it's a good thing I checked. So that version of it is running over here. So I'm going to restart the Codespaces. If the demo gods love me, it'll come back up. And this lets me run that exact environment in the cloud on Codespaces. And we're going to come back and check out some of these demos here. Again, demo gods be happy. But while this is starting up, let's switch back and talk about what Codespaces is and why we want to use this. So remember, you saw already that the default open source project that they give us comes with two requirements. You need a node runtime, you need a MongoDB database where you can store this, and they already have a Docker, kind of a Dockerization technique to shift it into spaces. We should be able to take advantage of that, right? So the GitHub Codespaces, by definition, is an environment where you can take a Docker container and run it in the Azure cloud. So in this particular picture that you see, the blue thing is a virtual machine, the green thing is a Docker container, the virtual machine is running in the Azure cloud, but there are some benefits. This is using something called Dev Containers, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. The value of running this in the cloud is now, it's like you've got yourself your own special machine that has been pre-set up with everything that you need to run this chat, and you can connect to it from anywhere. Codespaces has this ability to allow any of these editors to connect to that space. So if you're a VS Code enthusiast, you can connect to it from your laptop. You can connect to it in the browser on VS Code from your iPad and code. So it's kind of really, really flexible. The other thing that I didn't kind of show too much, but is really valuable to know, is Codespaces allows you to put secrets in your GitHub profile. So you don't have to expose any of the sensitive information by accident in any of your files. And it'll drop them into the environment when it runs. So there are some benefits there. Last but not least, it's a dev container. And I want to kind of briefly tell you what dev containers are and why it's important we should be using them when we're doing something like this, where we're deconstructing an open source project that we've never worked with before. Under the hood, dev containers is really just a Docker container with a couple of additional benefits. It comes with a configuration file called devcontainer.json, where you can give it the base Docker image. You can customize it by adding other Docker features and building up the most custom, efficient container that you need for your particular application. But once you've done that, you now have a single file, and this is called configuration as code. And keep note of that term. What it allows you to do is check in that configuration file in with your repository so that anybody who uses your project ends up setting up the exact same development environment as you, because you're all effectively using the same virtual machine provisioned with the same container. And this is super useful for folks like us who are playing with something that we're not familiar with. Let's say I run this and I kind of have a bug and I can't figure it out. I don't have to spend time saying, well, I'm on Mac, you're on Windows, and they say, well, it works on my machine. We don't have to do that. We can literally say, can you go check it out? Here is my code space. So we're both looking at the exact same environment. So this kind of consistent environment is great for team projects and collaboration because we're all looking at the same thing. But wait, there's one additional thing. Because it's a dev container file, when you clone this repo to your local space, you can actually open it up from VS Code in a Docker desktop container that's local without using GitHub Codespaces. And now you're able to use this even if you're not connected to the network. So this is the benefit of dev containers. Question that I'm always asked is, hey, what about the runtime, right? What's the difference between dev and production? The benefit of this is that the runtime is the same. It's just that the dev container has additional tools to help you debug. So when you use a dev container and you do tests on it, the likelihood that your stuff that works in development will now work in your CI/CD pipeline and your production is really high. So I have 5 minutes or maybe a little bit more. So let's actually dive into the main part of what we can do with Codespaces. So we're going to go in and actually see what's happening in Codespaces right now. So over here, I've actually, if you go and fork my repo, if you've never worked with Codespaces before, switch over to this branch called Feature Global AI December 2023, go into Code, click on Codespaces, press the plus sign, and it'll launch a new Codespace. Over here, I actually have that running in the Codespace. And a couple of things you'll notice is that, let me see over here. Okay, a couple of things you'll notice is that this thing is currently dead. By default, when it starts up, it should have started a MongoDB database for me. So we will see whether that's there. I can actually go in and do the Mongo shell here. And since I've been using this since morning, I can kind of do the same thing and say, show me the databases. And I see HF chat. And then I can say, show me the collections here. Probably have the same thing. We don't need to look at it right now. I just want to make sure it's there. Missing the, all right. So we know that's set up. Now we need to actually run this, right? So if you've been following along and you forked my repo and you basically started the Codespace, it'll take a while because to kind of build up that container takes a while. But when you finally get to this point where it's set up, you basically go into the root directory of that space. I'm not going to show you my environment variables, which are set in environment.local, but I will show you the equivalent file that you will be copying if you're doing it yourself. At this point, you will copy this. It says use .env.local. You'll copy this file into a .env.local, and you're going to make two changes. You're going to set this MongoDB URL to the MongoDB URL of your local MongoDB, which is literally just going to be that localhost string. In fact, when you run it, when the first time you run it, it's going to give you that string anyway. So copy that over here. If you want to change the name of this, you can. And then over here, you're going to put in the token. So in this case, for example, when I started my MongoDB instance, I gave it a name. That's the one I used in my environment variable. The HF token, go log into HuggingFace, create an account, go into the settings, grab the token, put it in here. This is what you'll need in order to actually connect and use their backend services. Now, the OpenAI key is optional. If we have time at the end, we're going to talk about it when we talk about the Azure integrations. But for now, if you just put those, you're good enough. And outside of that, the other thing you need to see is by default, it's using the Mistral model, Mistral AI. And just leave it at this. It's going to set it up to use this as the default model with those example prompts. You'll see that it actually gives you prompt examples here. The other thing that I did, and it's just kind of like for fun because it's a good way for you to try to like customize it yourself, is you'll see there's a public announcement banner. These are the things that show up on the front landing page. So you can make your own banner saying, hey, I've just released a blog post and put it on there if you want to. So anyway, I've configured mine. I'm not going to show you those variables, but you would copy this over. And then you do an npm install. So remember, you're going to split this and have two different things. It's already installed it. And then you're going to do an npm run dev. Now, this, for anyone who's familiar with Node, this is kind of run of the mill. Install basically installs all your dependencies. Run dev is basically running the development server. So you're seeing a preview version of it. The interesting thing in here is that it is, it looks like you might have lost me. Am I back? I hope so. It looked like it paused for a second. So you can see that when this happens, it'll actually pop up a thing saying, hey, open in browser. That's because we're running in a container, and the container is actually forwarding the port of the previous server to your browser, so you can see that chat UI in your browser. And voila, you'll see that my custom announcement is over here. This is all set up. You've seen that I've been kind of doing some tests all morning. Now we'll try to ask something, but again, let's try to say, give me a recipe for upside. I'm just on a food thing today, upside down pineapple cake. And we'll leave this here. It takes a while sometimes, and sometimes it will fail. If it does, you can kind of go back into this and you will see that there's an error message here. It'll tell you what's wrong. You can come back and fix it. But for now, voila, it's actually working faster now than it was this morning. So you'll see that it's actually generating the things for you. Notice that I've been asking questions. And one of the things I do like, let's stop generating it. One of the things I do like about this, the way they've set it up, is you'll notice that it looks at the prompt and it comes up with its own emoji, and it's kind of cute. Like I didn't say anything, but it put a cake emoji for this. For hiking trails, it put a leaf. a cute UX feature. So if I go into this, if I go into Codespaces now, and I were to go look into my conversations, if I did this right, collections.find, oh, sorry, db. What was the name of my conversations? Yeah. If we did this right, the last conversation should be the one with this upside down pineapple cake, and there we are. So with this, if you've been following along at this point, even if I did nothing else, I'm kind of running low on time, I think. But if you did nothing else, you're still set up to work with this. But I'm going to leave you with a couple of quick close-ups. So we talked about all this. I want to talk to you about GitHub Copilot. So one of the things with Dev containers is you can add extensions when you need to. So in this particular case, in our Dev container file, I've set this up with a Copilot extension. But if you haven't installed it before, the easiest way is you go into any extension you want to install, left click, and then you just say add it to my Dev container. And then next time Dev container starts up, it's going to start up with that extension installed. Why is Copilot helpful? As I told you, this app is built with a front-end framework called Svelte. You don't know Svelte. You want to understand what this is. So what you can do is you can actually start this up on the side. And I know a little bit about how Svelte works. So for instance, I can see that there's a Svelte kit file, and then there is a svelte.config file over here. But let's say we go into this, and you'll see that Svelte has this page.svelte file, which is a strange prefix, right? So you can go into Copilot and say, hey, Copilot, can you explain what does a .svelte file do? And if it kind of gets this right, it actually plugs the context of that page.svelte into the question. And then it should basically go in and kind of find out and comes back to you to tell you, hey, this is using SvelteKit, right? So I think I'm kind of running a little bit low on time. Not really sure, but I have a whole bunch of things you can try out using Copilot chat that I'll put in the Discord, or if we have time, we'll come back and check it out. But what you want to use Copilot for is actually three things. First, anytime you see code in here, you can kind of go in and say, what does this do? So just for those of you who are curious about Svelte, Svelte is what's called kind of a static site generator. It's a toolkit and a framework using the Svelte programming language. And what this is a kind of like a routing-based system. So you have an app.html right here, which is the landing page. And every .page.svelte file is telling you a capable route. So for example, there's a privacy thing here and a page.svelte. What this is saying is there is a route called /privacy. Let's go check. If I go into this file, if I go into the thing here and I put a /privacy, oh, can I see it? It should, oh, it didn't. Am I in the right thing? Oh, I can't see this. I'm so sorry. I'll put that for you later. Oh, is that here? Oh, because I'm in conversations, that's why. My bad. So if you go into this is the root of the file of the app. If you go and put in privacy, it's rendering the file that was in that particular template, right? So you can kind of figure it out as you go. Like every Svelte file is actually the template for one of those pages in your UI. And once you figure that out, you can go into the particular route, find the file, go to Copilot and say, how do I actually fix this to do something else? All right, so I think we're out of time. So I'm going to wrap this up and say, if you're interested in this, please come check it out. There are multiple things you can do to integrate Azure in here, including actually using an Azure AI deployment endpoint with the chat app directly. So if you're interested, come hit me up. I'll be writing a few blog posts on this. These are the Azure integrations I'm interested in, and I'd love to have contributions. So thank you so much.
Nitya, that was brilliant. Goodness me. Those demos were seamless. You didn't need to thank anyone for those. They were perfect. You know what? We were just saying behind the scenes, like, we didn't know HuggingFace did so much more than just the models, right?
Yeah.
That was actually quite a revelation for me just then. I was like, oh, I didn't know they did that. So because you mentioned there's like a free account, so then is it when you host the model, is that only like with them, that's when you pay?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to show you. So the nice thing about them, I'm really sorry about that. I keep seeing this thing. So hopefully it won't show any of my details, but what happens is you can actually go for, by default, they give you a free tier. it's like Spaces. You can get a free GPU level tier with no cost. And you can deploy many of these for free. That's why I'm able to run Spaces and I don't even have a credit card on here. But then when you want to do, like if you do the pro account, you get like better kind of access to some of the backend services, but you can also go a la carte, right? Like you can pick a model and pay by the hour. So this Hugging Face chat, if you actually deployed it, it's not too expensive. There's a GPU you can use. And yeah, we're not going to say anything about the cloud or the backend. That's all I'm going to say. But this, yes, it is really good. But I will say, I would love, love, love to see more of us on there. I think the big value for me is I actually have a profile on here now. Is you'll see that I'm actually creating a collection of Microsoft research papers.
Nice.
There's a collection of must-read papers from research formed from the basics, right? Like, hey, if you're getting into this space, read this first, right? So we can kind of do a lot of interesting things to curate information, curate the experiences, right? Just like we would do on GitHub, so which is cool. The other thing I'll throw out is I was at PyData NYC recently, and I was fascinated by the fact that someone did a workshop and just said, oh, you know what? We're going to test this out. Go to Hugging Face and deploy my template. Done, right? So I think that there's opportunity for us to do the same thing with Codespaces too. We just need GPUs, but otherwise, yeah, there's a lot Hugging Face does. And if you ever want to kind of, if you find out where the chat is, you'll see there's a lot of other things hidden here that they do as well. One of the things I love is they have free courses. So if you're interested in transformers, yeah, go check them out.
Oh, fabulous. There we go. Some of the courses.
That's very nice. And this is all available with the free account.
It's all available with the free account. And in fact, shout out to Maria Kalusova, who I think is an ex-MVP or an active MVP. She did the audio course. So Hugging Face is based out of New York and San Francisco. So I'm a little bit biased because I'm a New Yorker. But this is the most recent course they put out there, which is audio transformers. So yeah, these are all free. And in fact, shout out to the folks in New York. We might be doing a study group to kind of walk through some of these, because I think we all need to start with NLP basics, and transformers comes from Hugging Face. So kind of like getting to see what they're doing is useful because they actually have notebooks with everything on there. But we need people to port some of those over. So if you're doing stuff, come talk to me.
That's cool. And
yeah,
Nitya,
very cool.
If you could head over to the Discord. Yeah, sorry, thank you. Lost my words there. To the Discord for us, just go post all those links in there. I can imagine lots of people are super interested because you really did a great job there of all the different ways you can demo. Codespaces was seamless. It was beautiful. It was very easy to follow along. So thank you so much for giving us that really great overview on Hugging Face.
Yeah, really impressive talk. Thanks a lot. Learned a lot from it.
Thank you. And we want to have people play with it. So yeah, love if you're interested, I'll be on Discord right now. And thanks for having me. Thanks to all of you. This is a great community.
Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.
See you later, Nitya.
Bye.
Amazing. So with that, we will wrap up this session on Hugging Face and we'll head over to our next one.